showed you how to synthesize a kick drum, and now we're going to move on. We will import a kick drum into a sampler. I will adjust the output level to -6 dB and the velocity to 50%. You have to raise the velocity value, otherwise the velocities won't work. Okay, this is the kick I'm going to use. At the moment the transient isn't quite loud enough for me, so I'm going to use a transient shaper to adjust the volume of the transient. Always do A/B checks on your work to see if you're going in the right direction. I will add Dune now for the bass line. The bass line will be in the key of G. I will adjust the velocity of the first note so it's not clashing with the end of the kick. Okay, now we need to create the bassline patch. We will start from a regular saw wave. I will drop it down by 2 octaves, which is 24 semitones. I will change the filter. Adjusting the key tracking. Now to adjust the amplifier envelope. Now to adjust the filter envelope to sculpt our sound. But first I need to connect the filter envelope to the filter cutoff. I will use a constant to hook it up to the oscillator phase. This way we have a constant phase in our bassline patch. Okay, I will change the BPM. I will put a saturation unit over our bassline. I will put it on gentle compression. This will reduce the peaks, the transients of the bassline patch, and we will get more headroom from the bassline. I will use a utility plugin to invert the phase just to see how it sounds. Most of sequencers have an option to invert the phase. Now for some EQ. I will boost around 49 Hz. That's in the key of G. You can find frequency charts on the internet. checking to see how it sounds in context. I hear a frequency I don't like in the bass line. I'm trying to find it with a really narrow Q. Okay, there it is. And now I will just subtract it. I will put a limiter just to be on the safe side. Okay, much better. Now to move on with the EQ, I think I will cut out this frequency too. Yes, I think I will cut it out. And be your work. I think I will cut out the low end, 25 Hz, let's say, and I will use a gentler slope so I don't affect the sound too much. I will also boost 98 Hz, which is also key of G. I will boost this frequency very lightly, maybe 1 or 2 dBs, and then I will cut out some of the mid-range. I will also cut out the very high end, which is not needed in a bass line. Again, A and B your work. Checking in context. I think I will go for some compression right now. I will use compression on only one note because I'm going to sample it. I will use parallel compression, which means I will overcompress the sound and then I will bring back in some of the dry sound. I will adjust the attack and the release to catch the transient. I'm bringing back some of the dry sound back. And I'm pulling back on the threshold. I like my gain reduction to be around 6 dB. Checking in context. I will now sample the bass note into an empty audio channel and then I'm going to use a sampler. You can use Contact, Battery or any other sampler available to you. I will now clean up the waveform of the bass line a bit. It's longer than 1/16th note, so I will cut that out, cut out the release. And now I will adjust the fade-ins and fade-outs. I don't want a fade-in, but I definitely want a fade-out. It's up to you to adjust the fade-out to your taste. I will just consolidate the clip. I decided on a drum rack instead of a simpler because I'm going to record one more hit of the bass line, which will be longer than 1/16, just to be on the safe side if I need it later. Okay, now same procedure as the last one. Consolidating and dropping it into the drum rack. We don't need the audio channel anymore. I will delete it. Now for some housekeeping, always try to name your channels. I will now group these 3 channels and rename the group as well. I will turn off the effects and the VST, but I won't delete it because I may need it later. Now to check our bassline. In order to make the velocities work, we need to adjust some of the parameters inside our drum rack. Adjust the volume to -6 and the velocity to 50, and that will give us the total output of 0 dB, which we want. And copy value to siblings, so we don't have to do the same on the second note. You can also make a triplet bass line using these samples. Like I said, some housekeeping, keeping things nicely named and color coded. I will now deal with the kick a bit. I have an effect on it and I would really like to save on some CPU, but I don't want to freeze the channel, so I will resample it with the effect and then drag the sample back into the sampler. And now I can delete the effect. And now after all that work, we have a kick and bass running together and not going over 0 dB without a sidechain. I will play you the bass line from the VST now, which doesn't have the release cutoff. It will play even quieter than the sampled one, but the output of the group will go over 0 dB. I will show you now why. I will render this channel into an audio track. Now you see the release of the last note is overlapping the kick. So that's muddying up the kick and also adding up to the dBs. You can try to solve this problem with a sidechain or with the technique I showed you. Sidechaining in this example won't give the same results. You can see and hear the difference. But you can put the sidechaining compressor onto the sampled bassline to give that pumping effect. I will use another EQ on the kick drum to cut out some of the high end. I will try a high shelf. And I will cut out some of the mid-range. I will give it a small boost. I'll turn down the volume so it's not clipping. Always check if it's clipping. As always, A and B your work. Some more adjustments on the bass line. I'll cut out some more of the mid-range. I will boost it on 49 Hz. Now to adjust the volume. This is a little addition to the kick and bass part. I don't know if I'm going to use this later or not, but here it is. People like using quadrafuzz from Cubase, and this is a little substitute you can use in Ableton. You can use L3LL. It actually gives a pretty similar effect as the quadrafuzz. Again, you can try phase inverting the bass line to see if it sounds better. And that's it for this part of the tutorial. See you in the next one.